Hello and welcome back to the Sports Roundtable podcast at the State News, where we bring you all of the info and all the lore about Michigan State athletics. Not really lore, but makes it a little spicy sometimes. We bring you everything from Michigan State athletics, and this week is the most infamous week in Michigan State University football history. It's Paul Bunyan week. It's time for Michigan State and Michigan football. Finally, they're headed to Ann Arbor to the big house, trying to bring Paul Bunyan back home.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible?
Should I answer?
Yeah.
It is. It is possible. It is.
I think so, too. I mean, judging by the way that we played last week and by how Michigan played last week, I think that, you look at both of our seasons and I think we have the same record, don't we?
I think so,
I think so, too. I mean, we're very even to each other.
Yeah,
very even.
Very even, yeah.
I mean, that's a big possibility for us to finally, after, 4 or 5 years, we beat them the first year under Harbaugh. And then I think we beat them the second year, and every year since then we have not won. It's been a while. It's been quite some
Michigan?
time. Period.
We beat them.
When was the last time we beat them?
My freshman year. Oh, so you're senior in high school.
Yeah, so I was a child.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my freshman year in high school, my freshman year in college. I don't know why I said that. It was at here, Kenneth Walker.
Oh.
It was
yep.
30, I don't know, 34, 32, something like that. Something crazy like that.
Yep.
I was in attendance. That was literally the craziest game ever. Just the energy was insane.
Was that the year after Trouble with the Snap, or was that 2 years after? Or was that the year?
Trouble with the Snap was 2015.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Was it really that long ago?
Yeah, I'm talking about 2021.
I feel like an idiot.
It's okay.
I mean, if we're backing it up a little bit, you know what? Let's completely ignore the fact that I ever spoke anything about football.
Should we restart?
You know what? That's been the podcast.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
If we're going, let's go back to Iowa. Obviously, that was a close game, I'd say, through the first half. But I think that the star of the game, yet again, was Jonathan Kim. 20 points.
Yeah.
20 points. That's wild.
Unlikely, but yeah.
He has saved us quite a few times throughout the season so far, especially this game, Maryland. He's going to be someone that we really utilize at Michigan.
Definitely, yeah.
So what were kind of your takeaways from that game?
Well, I remember we talked about this maybe the first week or so, where we need to find the football team needs to find more consistency, and I think that has started to happen more. I think that Aiden Childs is starting to be more consistent with his passing. Has more he's been more reliable, but he's also more trustworthy of his the wide receivers. Oh my God, I can't
his
talk
wide
either.
Receivers.
I can't talk
you
either.
Can't even speak.
Yeah. Of his wide receivers. So I think the team chemistry is kind of building off of each other. And I think we're starting to become more consistent.
I think so too. I mean, obviously there was a lot of interception problems at the beginning of the year, but Aiden Childs only had one interception against Iowa, and so Cade McNamara only had one interception, and he's been a quarterback that has obviously fallen off a little bit since his injury last year, but he was Michigan's guy for a little bit too. I think he was quarterback when we beat them in 2021. It wasn't JJ yet.
Oh, you know what?
I think it was Cade McNamara.
Yeah. I think you're right, yeah.
I'm finally right on something. Obviously, so Childs threw for 256 yards. Cade McNamara threw for 150. And then Nick Marsh, yet again, 113 yards, 8 receptions. K'Ron Lynch-Adams, 15 carries, 86 yards. If we're looking at this, obviously Aiden Childs threw... We're just looking at game stats a little bit, but I think that Aiden Childs was, in the long run, a little more consistent than Cade McNamara was in his throwing.
Definitely, yeah.
But obviously the star of the show was Jonathan Kim, and he's
Mhm.
somebody that we're going to use a lot.
Yeah.
So upcoming, obviously, we have Michigan versus Michigan State,
Mhm.
Battle of Paul Bunyan.
Mhm.
We have two teams that have great defense. They have really
Mhm.
great secondaries, but their offense both seem to struggle. And Michigan State has stepped it up a little bit with Aiden Childs. And I was just talking to Casper about how these quarterbacks, there's just completely different stories on each of these quarterbacks.
Mhm. Totally.
With whoever even is quarterback at Michigan right now, because they've had 3 quarterbacks come in the past few weeks for their season.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think a big part of the Michigan State-Michigan game is going to be their offense. Like, if we look at the Iowa game, Michigan State had more first downs, rushing yards, passing yards, like, total offense, literally, like, just everything, pretty much everything offensively, they just cleared Iowa. So I think if they can use this momentum or use this as momentum into the Michigan game, I think offensively we're going to do better.
I think so too. I mean, you got to think of who all Michigan lost. They lost J.J. McCarthy. They lost Blake Corum. I think they lost a few wide receivers. They lost almost all of their offensive line. They only had like 15, not even 15. They had very few starters return. This is a team that, while we are rebuilding with having so many new guys on our team and a completely new coaching staff, they're doing the same thing over there.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
This game is going to be both first-year head coaches. Too.
I know. I saw that. I saw that earlier. That's really interesting to me. And while obviously Sherrone Moore was on the staff for a little bit before Jonathan Smith was, Sherrone Moore obviously knows the program. He was, assistant coach? Or he did something.
Yeah.
I think he was assistant coach last year and then had to step up to interim when Harbaugh was suspended. But, yeah, they're in completely new positions, one completely new program. They're they're basically both completely new programs, whether it's losing people to the NFL or losing them to the portal. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be it'll be a huge matchup, like a battle.
Absolutely.
Offensively and defensively.
I think so too. And I mean, either team that, if we win or if we lose, like, it's going to be a shock to either fandom if one team wins and the other team loses. Like, as Michigan State fans, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, we won. But if we were Michigan fans, we would say the same exact thing because they're just as inconsistent in some of their ways that we are.
Yeah.
So it's such an even matchup between the two. So it should be interesting. And then what?
Talking about the Michigan State versus Michigan.
Oh my gosh, that's where I was gonna segue.
Oh my god, okay, I
next.
didn't know. Yeah. Okay. You could introduce it.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Michigan State, or I guess the State News is participating in the Daily game against the Daily News.
The Michigan Daily.
Yeah, the Michigan Daily.
It's their newspaper at Michigan.
Yes.
So I've never played in.
Me neither.
Oh, you haven't either?
Yeah, because I got here second semester sophomore year.
Oh.
So, yeah. So we didn't do it last year. We didn't do it last year, but we decided to do it. We decided to do it this year, addressing the audience. And so it should be really interesting. I've heard from multiple people at the State News who know people at the Michigan Daily that they practice every week. Yeah.
That's wild.
They practiced every week, even when we didn't do it last year. They've been practicing. They practice like every week for like 2 or 3 hours, I think.
Do they have lives?
Right. No, genuinely, yeah.
That's wild.
We have not practiced, and I don't think we do need to practice.
I don't think we do either.
It's two-touch football we got some people, me, Casper, Jack Williams, Emilio.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just some of the people that I know that are going to.
I think Thomas is going.
Oh, yeah. Thomas.
Duh.
Duh. I think it'll be really fun. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it gets really competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So it should be very fun. Are you going to be playing?
I am not. But what I was going to say is it's so fun to, like, see these traditions. Like, obviously you have the Michigan State football game, and then you have the State News and the Michigan Daily football game, and then Special Olympics Michigan State and Special Olympics Michigan, University of Michigan, not Michigan as a whole. They compete in a flag football game the night before as well.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to, like, see these different Traditions, yeah. I was going to say rituals, and I was like, rituals is not the right word. Right. It's so fun to, like, see these traditions stay alive. Obviously, Michigan, the Daily game didn't go on last year, but it's coming back, and I think that that's good for the State News. I think it's just fun to be able to keep that kind of thing going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
we'll get back to you next week.
We'll get back to you next week about that. So jumping from football to basketball, Michigan State basketball is so close. So close.
I can practically feel the air. I can hear Izzo's voice.
I can hear it in my head. It's back. We're buzzing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously we've got a little bit of time still, and we can go into it a little more next week on the podcast. But Michigan State basketball plays their first game. I think it's an exhibition game too, isn't it? Against
Ferris State.
Oh, it's against Ferris State now.
Yeah, on the 29th.
Who is Monmouth?
Yeah, that's on November 4th.
Oh, okay.
It's just like an exhibition.
Oh, so it's not even.
Yeah, it's like.
It's not even in here.
Yeah.
So they played their, like, exhibition preseason game at Northern, and they won.
70-53.
They went back and retired Tom Izzo's jersey, which is super awesome that they were able to do that. Now we got Ferris State coming up.
Yeah, now we got Ferris State. Should be a pretty easy match. I think it's going to be a good marker for how the team is kind of lining up so far. I was able to go to the media day a couple days ago, where I talked to Izzo, and then I talked to, like, half the team. Just, like, individually, just about, how they're feeling. From what it seems like Jaden Akins has become the leader. He's the only 4-year player on MSU. So he's kind of becoming a leader. So is, like, Cohen Carr. Frankie Fiddler's also becoming a leader, just because, he's just a wing, and he's kind of, I don't know, he's a tall guy who can be consistent.
Right.
So, it should be interesting, but, like, Jaden Akins said that he didn't play super well up at Northern, but a big thing is remaining confident. So he said that he's trying to. Oh my God! Wow, I can't.
We cannot speak today.
Yeah. He's trying to be consistent, and through his confidence, and he's also relaying that message to his teammates, which I think is really crucial for a season that honestly could possibly go either way. As we head into Izzo's 30th season with the team.
That's insane.
Right?
It's been 30 years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you think that Jaden Akins is kind of taking over the leadership role that Tyson Walker was, like, leaving, I guess?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No doubt about it.
I agree with you. This could be a season that goes either way. It's going to be interesting to see what happens after last year. Obviously, Tom Izzo's not a fan of using the transfer portal, but he did utilize it a little bit with Fiddler, right?
Yeah.
Where is he a transfer from again?
Omaha.
So, I mean, yeah, and from what I've read, he's been a great pickup in the transfer portal. And obviously we have new freshmen that have come in that have played. But yeah, you're right. It's
Yeah.
going to be a toss up between where the season could go.
Yeah, and I think Xavier Booker, he's going to be a huge part in this season. He's 6'11", I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because him
yeah.
and Carson Cooper, I think, are the same height. And
Yeah.
they're almost 7 foot tall.
Yeah. He was also in our Germ 325 class.
He was, for a day.
Yeah, for a day.
And then I never saw him again.
Never saw him again, yeah. But he has been trying to also, keep consistency throughout games and practices. So it should be. I think people are gonna, or the teammates are gonna use him as like the main inside guy and the paint guy. And I think we're gonna see a lot of Fiddler being used on the outside and the wings.
Obviously, Xavier Booker didn't get much playing time last year. How do you think that's going to be different coming into this year? Like, what do you think he's been able to do in the offseason that has just showed that he can be that guy?
Yeah, well, I talked to Booker about it, and Booker said that Izzo said that he's going to be a starter.
Good for him.
Yeah, so I think he's definitely going to see a lot more minutes. I think it'll be good for him to get more comfortable with other players besides the starting five or the other four players. And I think, I think consistency with like rebounding especially. He only averaged, I believe, 2 rebounds a game. And he only played 11 minutes. So like 2 rebounds in 11 minutes isn't awful.
Right.
But I think getting more rebounds is going to be a really big thing for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's, like you said, he's going to be a guy that we utilize inside the paint. Like, he's got to get in there.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to get rebounds for the team and utilize that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What else, Michigan State basketball? You're kind of my go-to guy for Michigan State basketball. I've never been I like basketball. I love Michigan State basketball, but I've never kept up on it like you.
I think Jackson Kohler is going to be another player that is going to be used a lot. I think Izzo was saying that he I'm paraphrasing. He lost about 15 pounds.
Oh, wow.
In the off season. I think it was that much, and that's helped him kind of get stronger or get faster, and he's built more muscle.
He's leaner.
Yeah, leaner. So I think he's gonna be utilized a lot more. And he's a player that I've seen him in practices before. He's a player that is mainly on the inside, but he can shoot some threes. He can shoot outside the 3-point range. Shoot from the 3-point range. I know I said outside.
He can play basketball.
Yeah, he can play basketball. So I think he's probably gonna get some more minutes this year.
What about Fears coming back? That's been a really big storyline. Obviously after everything that happened over Christmas break and him coming back and getting ready to play. Just what do you think about him coming back?
He is a huge asset to the team for many reasons, but I think the biggest reason is energy. If you've ever seen him play, you know that he levitates in the air. He is super flashy, but not in an arrogant way. He's just very he can just dunk the ball in any way he wants, and he gets the crowd hype. Like
Cohen Carr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I literally think I was talking to some of the teammates, and they actually said, not speaking about Cohen Carr, both Fears Jr. and Cohen Carr are they just bring so much energy. So to the table, to the court. So I think that's going to be really helpful this season.
I've heard a lot about Trey Holloman kind of making a big step this season too, and him and wait, never mind. I'm gonna sound dumb if I say this. But he seems like he's ready to step up and get himself a starting 5 position and be a good player, which he
definitely. Yeah, he's very good.
He was a great player last year, but he's ready to make his name known a little bit more this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a little bit more responsibility this season. Yeah.
Did him and Tyson Walker play the same position?
They're both guards.
Okay.
I think Trey Holloman is a guard, or a small forward. If NBA rules, NBA terms.
Quote unquote.
He would be like a shooting guard. Trey Holloman would be like a shooting guard, and Tyson Walker is a point guard.
Okay.
But like on the roster, they're both guards.
They're both
so
guys.
they could both play at the same time.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, yeah. Well, Michigan State basketball should be a very interesting season. And then finally,
here we go.
Michigan State hockey. So last time I did this.
Yeah, I know.
I was able to talk about Michigan State hockey coming into the season. And we played at Lake Superior State the first weekend, and we swept them. And then the second weekend, there really isn't much. I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't get to watch the game because it wasn't on Big Ten Plus. So there isn't really a whole lot to talk about besides we swept the weekend at Lake Superior State. First game was trying to shake the rust off a little bit. Second game, we did much better. But coming into Mount Ice Arena, we played number 2 Boston College.
Yeah.
And night 1 was disastrous.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of Michigan State hockey fans can speak for that because we were shut out 3-0. And even Red Savage said afterwards that you come into your home crowd expecting a big win for the home opener and you get shut out. He literally called it embarrassing. He said that to the media. Yeah. Which he had every right to do, but even Nightingale said there was a lot of plays that were too cute. Like they were trying too hard to be like the stars that Boston College has, and they're not those guys. Like they're not Gabe Perreault, they're not Ryan Leonard, they're not all of them are first round draft picks. Like we can't do that.
Like you just kind of have to get the work done.
Exactly. Yeah. He said Nightingale said after the game that they are a blue-collar hockey team, and when they try to play white-collar hockey, they're not a good team.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So that was really interesting to me, actually. Like, just his, like, thought process through it and through the game. And then going into night 2, he won 4-3, but he jumbled the lineup. I mean, you're so used to going into the press box. You sit down, get your papers. And the first line is Danny Russell, Carson Dorwart, Isaac Howard. It was Danny Russell, Carson Dorwart, Joey Larson. And then it was Isaac Howard, Charlie Stramel, Gavin O'Connell. And we were all kind of like, what? Yeah. What just happened? Right. And it worked. Yeah. I mean, that was a great game to watch, too, just because there was so much energy at Munn. And we hadn't seen that energy the night before because we got shut out 3-0. Right. But night 2, it felt like at the end of the game, especially like when the clock was running down and it was still 4-3, it was like we won the Big Ten championship again because we beat the number 2 team in the country. Yeah. And we got swept by them last year in Boston College. So everybody was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, they're still a really good team, even though they've lost a lot of people.
It was kind of like back and forth, like 1-0, 1-1, 2 for the most part? Yeah. Yeah,
so we scored first, so it was 1-0. They scored 2, so it was 2-1 going into the into the second period. And then it was 4-3 at the end of the second period, and we had no more goals in the third.
Wow. Okay. I feel like that adds, especially at the home court or home arena.
Home court advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that also when you're at home, that adds to the excitement.
It does.
Like for students and fans, like that was like bracing on the last few seconds, like what's gonna happen. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially like. You can hear the Munsters loud and clear anywhere that you sit in there. And it is just, like, they're so excited. Like, especially after last year, season tickets sold out in, like, 2 seconds. Yeah. But they're just so excited to have a winning program. Ooh, whoopsies. I just spit. We did an assignment for Journalism 206 a couple weeks ago, and it was my question to people. It was man on the street. It was like, Michigan State hockey went to the regional tournament last year, lost to Michigan, but there's a winning program on this campus. Obviously, we've seen Michigan State football struggle the past few years. Michigan State basketball struggled last year, but we have a winning program. And just Nightingale's second year going into his third. Like, it is just so awesome when different programs through the school, and obviously Michigan State football and basketball will both get there. They'll both get back to where they were.
Yeah.
But it's just so fun, like, having a program that is winning.
Yeah.
And Nightingale has a lot to do with that. But yeah, I mean, it was Munn gets rowdy.
Yeah.
Munn gets rowdy.
Oh yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's so great. And even when, like, Trey Augustine skates out, even at the beginning of the game, they start chanting for him. I'm like, guys, he hasn't made a stop yet. Like, you're going to jinx him one of these times.
Right.
Well, the first time they did it, I think, was against Michigan at home. And that was the 7-1 loss.
Yeah.
And so I was like, they need to never do that again.
Yeah.
Like,
Genuinely.
they just jinxed us.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that was Boston College. And then last weekend they had their exhibition against Windsor. Ontario.
Yeah.
And they won 5-0.
Sweet. Yeah.
That was good. And it was even more fun because, like, you're sitting there watching the game. Trey Augustine walks out of the tunnel first. He's the starter. They all come back off the ice, come back out for second period, and Luca's at the front. And I was like, Luca.
Yeah.
Like, I know who that guy is.
Yeah.
So they had Trey start the first, and they had their backup goalie, Luca DePasquo, start the second and third. And he continued that shutout for us. I mean, I think Windsor ended the night with 10 shots on goal, 10 or 12. And we had, like, 40-something. I think we had 44 shots on goal. And you could tell at the end of the game how tired they were.
Yeah.
Because that's when Danny Russell got that second-to-last goal. Is that I think Michigan State dumped it down the ice. And Windsor was trying to get back, and Danny was way far ahead of him and just snuck one past the goalie.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Michigan State hockey.
So they play Canisius. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more sense. Yeah. Canisius next, and then Ohio State at home. What do you think is going to happen? First at Canisius, then Ohio State.
Canisius, I think that we will handle them fairly well. I think that we will sweep that even though it's on the road. We swept teams on the road a few times last year. And that was always, like, a big point to make was Michigan State hadn't swept on the road in, like, how many years after we swept Ohio State at the beginning of the year last year. But Ohio State I'm actually a little bit worried about because they started getting so good towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
Like when they beat Wisconsin, and Wisconsin has fallen off a little bit, but beat them, come in and take one night of the they beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament, came to Munn. We beat them by a hair. I think it was 2-1. It was 2 or 3-1.
Yeah.
And honestly, after their performance that, like, last quarter of the season, they deserved an NCAA tournament spot more than Wisconsin did. And now they just got back into the rankings. I think they're ranked number 20 in the USCHO polls.
Okay.
And so there's 5 Big Ten teams in the top 20 right now, which is, there's only 7 Big Ten hockey teams, but still, that's a huge deal. That's really cool. And obviously they're coming to Munn, so that makes a big difference in whether we win or not, but they are going to be tough again.
Yeah. And
they weren't, like, they were okay for a little bit, but they picked up a few guys in the transfer portal. One of them was Gunnar Wolf Fontaine is his name.
That's a sick
full name. Legal name. That is the coolest hockey name I've ever heard in my whole entire life.
Literally, yeah.
But he played for Northeastern in Massachusetts. And he had the game-winning goal in the Beanpot tournament, which they play at TD Garden. So it's like Harvard, Northeastern, BC, BU. And I don't remember if they beat BU or BC, but they won the whole thing, and it was his overtime goal. And then he entered the transfer portal, and I really wanted him to come here. I wanted him at Michigan State so bad, but obviously we got other guys in the transfer portal, so it's fine.
It's fine.
But They're going to be tough, and I
Mm-hmm.
just know it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they're going to Canisius first, though. Should be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
There was 2 guys, I think, from Michigan State that transferred there, and they played there last year, and I don't know if they're still there or not, but they were last year.
They were last year.
They
yeah.
were last year. But yeah, it should be interesting. A little rematch. Going to Buffalo this time. And then so it begins.
And, yep.
We bring that team into the mun. That one team.
That one
That
team.
one red and white team. Ooh. But yeah. But yeah. I think that's all we got.
That's all she wrote. Nice job.
This has been the Sports Roundtable podcast with my lovely guest PJ. We will see you hopefully next week.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Probably gonna be me again.
Yeah, it probably will be PJ again. Woohoo!